So Tom, can you tell me a little bit about your background, where you grew up, your family, your church life?
So I grew up in Amsterdam, New York. It's an old industrial town. I grew up in Amsterdam, went to public schools there, graduated from Amsterdam High School, played football there, just went on from there to Brown University, played football at Brown also. Back in the day, I was 230 pounds. And my mentality of I was a plotter. Academically, I was a guy that put my nose down, put my nose to the grindstone, worked hard. So nose guard is that position. It's the guy that kind of goes across from the center, will absorb double teams, and just kind of push through and kind of take one for the team. I said, Coach, I'm the one, I'm it. So it was very appropriate because it's like, you're the guy that can't think, just react. Just be there, put your head down, drive through, and be the village idiot, and you're doing well. So it fit my personality very well. So I went to college thinking I wanted to be an engineer and studied mechanical engineering at Brown, and I thought that's what I wanted to do. But during that time at Brown, I kind of fell in with this evangelical crowd. I'm a Roman Catholic. I grew up in the Catholic Church. I'm still Roman Catholic, but kind of fell in with this group of Protestants, mostly evangelicals, through the Campus Crusade for Christ. And there were some people in that group that were talking about being missionaries, and I didn't quite know what that meant. So I was talking to them, and I thought, man, that's something I'd like to do. I was after graduating, and after I was offered a job with GE, the idea just popped into my head, I should go into medicine. And that would kind of fulfill my wish to do mission work, and also was kind of in line with my love of the sciences and love of math and physics and science and everything else. After finishing at Brown, spent a year in Japan teaching English, and then went on to medical school at Duke University.
At Brown, was there someone there that really made an impact on you to push you in these directions? You mentioned the mission group, Campus Crusade. Is there someone in particular that pushed you in this direction?
Yeah, we had a pretty influential campus minister, a guy named Kent Dahlberg. He was a very influential figure in all of our lives. He was probably 25 years old. We thought he was big, like an old sage. Yeah. He was kind of the person that gave me the idea that Christianity is a lived life. It's a lived religion. It's not something you do on Sunday that kind of put it on the shelf, but it's something you make part and parcel of who you are and what you do. And that was kind of through him and through the other members of Campus Crusade, I got the idea that, hey, mission work is a way to kind of fulfill that. Something living, something active.
What do your teammates think now, or what do you think they thought when they heard about your mission?
Yeah, I think they were a bit surprised. I was fairly open about my faith in college, but I didn't think it led to this kind of crazy lifestyle of living out in the middle of nowhere and doing this kind of work. I think they were a bit surprised. Very supportive, very, very supportive of the work I'm doing, and many of them have been great friends and supporters of the work for many years.
So how many years was it from the time, approximately, when you finished at Brown to the time when you first set foot in Sudan?
So I graduated from Brown in 1986, went to Africa in January 2000, started in Kenya initially, was there for about 7.5 years, and then started in Sudan in March 2008. So pretty good. That's 14 plus 8, 22 years.
What were your first impressions when you got to Sudan for the first time?
It was weird. I was in Kenya for many years, right? So Africa, right? And people make fun, say, "Oh, Africa's a country." The difference within Kenya, within Africa, is incredible. I remember I was in Kenya, and there was a Sister Rosario, who was working up in Sudan, and she met me in Nairobi. I was working in Nairobi at the time. And she said, Tom, before you commit to working in Sudan, go and work there for a while to get an idea what the life is like. She said, Sudan is not like Kenya, it's different. And I thought, how different can it be, So I did. I followed her advice. I spent a few months in South Sudan with a guy named Brother Rosario, who was a Cambodian brother, had a hospital in South Sudan. And sure enough, it was very different. People were traumatized from 20-some years of civil war and famine and deprivation. They were a bit rough. They were angry. There was like kind of an anger and a tension to what they had. So very, very different life. The people there have not been touched by Western culture, Western civilization, Western society. It's a very different culture. Kenya was a British colony for many years. It had a lot of exposure to the Western world. So a much easier transition to work in Kenya. Sudan was kind of untouched by the outside world for many, many years, especially Nuba. Nuba even more so than South Sudan, and where I was initially in South Sudan. But even the British, for Nuba Mountains, the British said, you had to have a special permit back when the British were in control of Sudan, back in the 40s and 50s. They said, if you want to go to Nuba Mountains, you have to have a special permit. And the reason was they didn't want people going in and kind of destroying the natural life of the people there. They wanted to leave the Nuba alone. So it was a bit of a shock. And it took some effort to come out of that and to adjust to their way of life, to see the world and view the world the way they do, and to adapt to their way of living.
So at that time, what were you telling people who were wondering why you would give up so much opportunity? I mean, you could have done a number of things with your degree and your background.
My goal was to go and be a missionary. I want to be a missionary doctor. And when you're a doctor, you want to go where the need is, right? It's like, I don't want to be a doctor and go be the 5 millionth plastic surgeon on the Upper West Side. But that's not that interested in me. I want to go somewhere where I can use my abilities, however limited they are, but I can use that for the benefit of the people there. Where's the biggest impact going to be? Kenya is much further along, right? They're training doctors now. They have enough doctors, they have enough nurses. I kept hearing about people that were coming from Sudan, like this was in the early 2000s, and the first Sudan civil war was still pretty hot. And I would meet them and they would say, man, if you think Kenya is challenging or difficult, you should see what life is like in Sudan. There's almost no health infrastructure. People are really suffering. Diseases go untreated. Operations that are needed to be done are not done. They really need help there. So I started setting my sights on Sudan. I'm young. I've got tons of energy. I've got lots of zeal for this work. If I'm going to do anything like this, this is the time. And I just made up my mind. I really want to go to Sudan and work there because that's where the problems are. So for me, I'm a doctor, right? Like, why do you go to Sudan? Well, that's where the greatest need is. That's where the sick people are that don't have alternatives.
So can you talk then a little bit about what it was like in those early days at the hospital, and then even think about comparing that to where the hospital is now? In what ways has it changed? Maybe in what ways it's still the same as when you first showed up?
Right. So, when I first started, we got there, arrived March 10th, 2008. The hospital just started. The idea was we were going to be an 80-bed referral hospital. Just 80 beds, referral hospital, take care of problems locally, not worry that much about the rest of Sudan. And the staff we had initially, we had, I think, 8 expatriates from Kenya and Uganda. We had nurses, anesthetists, a lab person, one other nurse, a pharmacist. 8 expats, myself from the US, the rest of the expats were from Kenya and Uganda, and we have 15 local Nuba staff. They had some very rudimentary nursing training, like a 6-week course, that was it. The one with the highest level of education had finished 8th grade, so finished primary school. When we first got there, there was not a single high school graduate. In the entire rebel-held area of Nuba Mountains, not a single high school graduate. That's how far behind people were, because there'd been war forever. No chance for school, no chance for progressing. It started out very, very basic. So we went from there, we started expanding, started training people, did tons of on-the-job training with the local staff. We kept hiring new people. Now, 2009, 2010, high school graduates started showing up. We started hiring them, training them on the job. There was the CHTI, Catholic Health Training Institute, which was established in WOW around 2009. We sent two of our staff there for nurse training. The first time you'd have a trained nurse in all the Nuba Mountains. Went there, came back around 2012. They started working with us. So went in through lots of ups and downs. I mean, fighting started in 2011. We said, okay, fighting's going on. Let's stick it out, keep going. We kept sending people out for training. We started getting now a bit of a trained cadre of nurses. We sent people out for clinical officer, which is like physician assistant, sent people out for medical school, for pharmacy, for lab. So over the years, we sent, I think, 80 to 100 different people out for training. Where we are now, we've got 2 Nuba medical doctors who have finished training, medical school internship. We've got, 15, 20 clinical officers that work with us and work with their outreach clinics. We've got a hospital, which is not an 80-bed referral hospital, but a 480-bed referral hospital. We're seeing people from all over the Nuba Mountains. We're seeing people from the north of Sudan. We're seeing people from the upper edge of South Sudan, coming from all over the place. We are the referral hospital providing surgical and cancer care for Nuba Mountains, and now, since the civil war in Sudan started, for a good chunk of Sudan. And for the upper part of South Sudan, we're kind of it for that region.
Do you have an estimate of what you think the amount of people that encompasses in total?
Right, so our catchment area, catchment area refers to the amount of people in your purview, the ones that would seek care at your hospital. It's got to be close to 3 million. Because if you include Nuba Mountains, plus all displaced people that are in Nuba, plus people living in South Sudan that access us, plus people in Sudan in Darfur that make it to us, it's probably closer to 3 million, if not more. To include all of Darfur, it's 3-4 million people.
So, I mean, what are the more common things that you're consistently seeing at the hospital?
So we have the common diseases you have in most places in Africa. So malaria, for kids, gastroenteritis, malaria, pneumonias, tuberculosis is very common. Leprosy is still common in our area. We have a leprosy and TB ward. We have quite a few patients. We see a lot of cancers, a lot, all over the body. So cancer of the cervix, cancer of the uterus, breast cancer, prostate cancer, liver cancer, all kinds of cancers. We're the referral hub for all the cancers within Nuba. We're the only place that has chemotherapy, the only place that can do the surgical treatment of cancers. We're pretty much it. So we have a huge array of both tropical diseases plus the usual ones that afflict the West.
So what does a day look like for you typically?
Well, wake up around 5:30 or so, usually have a little bit of something to eat. I try to get to the hospital around 6:45. We have a chapel now on the hospital grounds, right in our little courtyard. So I try to get to the chapel by around 7. Try to pray from 7 to 7:30, just quietly. 7:30, we have Mass. We have a Catholic chaplain who's there. He has Mass from 7:30 to 8. 8 o'clock, go to the wards, meet my team up there. We start ward rounds at 8 o'clock. Start at maternity. Maternity has, I don't know, maybe 60, 70, 80 patients. These are pregnant mothers, neonates having problems, ladies waiting for delivery, all kinds of obstetric complications or problems. We start there in the maternity ward. And our entire team rounds the maternity. So all the doctors, all the clinical officers, all the clinical officer interns, there are probably 20, 25 of us in a big group rounding in all the patients. There was kind of teaching rounds. We do ultrasounds after that. From there we break up. I go to the female ward, do a full round there. It's another 60, 70 patients. I'll go to the male ward where one of the Nuba doctors has rounded there. I'll go and join him. We'll do the rounds again with him, just quickly, reviewing all the patients with him. I go to children's ward, review all the patients with the person who's there in children's ward, review all the patients there, see the ones they're having problems with. We now have an HDU, a high dependency unit, which is like an ICU. I go to the HDU, do rounds there. By that point, it's time for minor surgery. So after all the rounds, we pick out ones that have minor cases need to be done. Somebody needs an abscess drained. This person needs a wound debrided. Go and do minor surgery cases. By this point, it's 1:30, go to clinic, start working in clinic, see 60 people there, finish in the evening sometime, 6:30, then do some administrative stuff, go home. I'm on call at night, so any emergencies, I'll be called and come in at nighttime.
I mean, how many patients in a day?
I mean, if you talk about just like patient encounters, I don't take 10 minutes with each one, obviously, but I will get through 300-400 people in a day. If you say everybody you've seen and at least laid eyes on and try to figure out what's going on with them, it'll be 300 or 400 people.
Most people now in the news, they see what's happening in Sudan. They've heard maybe vaguely about a civil conflict, a civil war. How has the Nuba Mountains and Mother of Mercy Hospital been impacted by the ongoing conflict?
Right, so Sudan, you talk about civil war in Sudan, founded in 1956, it became an independent country. And they've been in a civil war for most of their history. So 70 years, probably 55, 60 of those years they've been in civil war. In Nuba Mountains particularly, we've been in civil war since 2011. It was kind of a cooling off period. Now, all of Sudan's been engulfed in civil war since April of 2023. Because of that, the health infrastructure in Sudan has collapsed. Khartoum was a huge city. All the health structure has been totally destroyed there. Hospitals destroyed, doctors left. There's nothing doing up in Sudan. There are probably 1 million, if not more than 1 million, displaced people within Nuba Mountains. So that's part of our catchment area, all these displaced people.
How does food insecurity and famine, that's been in the news a lot, has that impacted the types of cases you're seeing?
So last year, rainy season, this is about May to about October 2024, famine was declared in Sudan. And people think famine is just there's not enough food, right? But to be declared a famine, the UN uses a certain formula, but they have to have a certain number of deaths per day to say, yes, you guys are in famine. I mean, it's crazy. It's like you're sitting by watching somebody die, say, okay, well, now they've reached the threshold. Enough people are dying per day. Now we can declare it a famine. And that starts getting international news, right? Because before then, no one hears about it. I said, okay, famine's been declared in Sudan. Now it gets news coverage, and then aid starts coming in. Because of the civil war, aid was getting blocked. So the two warring parties were blocking food aid delivery to people that needed it. So, I mean, last year was terrible in terms of food insecurity. We have a nutrition ward in pediatrics, so usually we have maybe 15 kids there. During this 5-6 month period, we had 75, 80 children just on our pediatric nutrition ward. 75 to 80 malnourished kids every day. We'd round on that many children that were malnourished, terribly malnourished. Kwashiorkor, marasmus, the usual bugaboos that you get. A lot of kids were sick with TB, with pneumonias, other illnesses because of their immunosuppressed state. At the hospital, we had people coming every day, lining up at the hospital, coming asking for food, looking for, say, look, I'll come and work if you just give me some food. At my house, I live right behind the hospital. My wife was home at the time, taking care of our son, Vincent. So she said every day there'd be 8, 10, 15 people coming to our house saying, can you guys give us some food? I'll do anything. And she would put them to work. She was, okay, why don't you come and do some gardening? This is rainy season. She would have them go do some gardening. Then she'd give them, malwa, which is a paint can full of sorghum or some food for their effort for that day. This went on for months. It was terrible, terrible time.
You talked about how Sudan has been in civil conflict for almost in the entirety of its existence, post, colonization. How do you endure such immense challenges? I mean, you've stayed through countless years of war. Are there any moments or patients that stay with you that you think about, like, this is kind of what keeps me going throughout the constant conflict?
Too many to count, I think, is the answer. But kind of ones that pop to mind, it's going back a few years, but there was a lady maybe in her 40s, and she was living in a cave because her village was being bombed by the Khartoum government. They were bombing her village. They were shelling it. So people left and went to a cave. And she came out of the cave, I think, to try to fetch some water. She was hit with an artillery shell, shattered her thigh bone, and blew off the foot on the other leg. She came in, we had to do a partial amputation on the foot. She's in traction, she can't move out of bed, right? So then, morning comes and we hear a jet zoom overhead, and boom, a loud boom. We're getting bombed by the Sudan Air Force. And we all just, fall down to the ground. And we're in the hospital doing rounds, we get in the ground. And there were beds all in the corridor. And I remember I was on the floor, keeping flat, trying to avoid getting killed. And there was, next to me was a young girl, maybe 11 years old, and she was crying, just terrified, right? And just then, I remember this lady that was in traction, somehow, she ended up next to me. She somehow got out of bed, despite a fractured thigh bone, ends up next to me, and she's comforting this young girl. So I'm thinking, how does she have the wherewithal to do that? She obviously has to be in agony, and she can overcome all that stuff just to come and comfort this girl who was really terrified. So when you see that kind of courage and that toughness and that resilience, you think, well, who am I to complain? Let me throw my weight in with these people and try to do what I can. That's the kind of people they are. Just devastating circumstances, and yet they can find a reason to smile and keep pushing on with life.
In such a remote area, I have to imagine that is an ongoing challenge, just caring for mothers who are pregnant, young children.
Right.
Can you talk a little bit about the challenges in such a remote area that you find?
Right. So, I'm dying to know the number, but I don't know exactly our maternal mortality rate, but I think we're the highest in the world. South Sudan supposedly has the highest maternal mortality rate in the world. So maternal mortality is somebody who dies either because of the pregnancy, during pregnancy, or after pregnancy. I think the number in South Sudan is 1 out of 18 women will die in pregnancy or will have a maternal death. 1 out of 19, 18 or 19. Like, imagine that number. It's staggering. So this is what we're looking at. You've got very remote areas. You can't reach us, especially in rainy season when the roads are terrible. If you need a C-section, you can't get it done. You're going to die with that pregnancy. Infant mortality rate is off the charts high. Miscarriages, neonatal deaths. What happened to this kid? He died. How old? He was a year old. From what? He had diarrhea. How did this kid die? He died when he was 2 months. He died from coughing, and pneumonia, and died. So neonatal maternal mortality, maternal morbidity, obstetrical fistulas, which is the mother gets obstructed labor, which means like a tiny mother, big baby, can't get the kid out. Baby usually dies. She has to come to the hospital, eventually get the baby out. however way we can get the baby out, but she's left with a hole between the bladder and the birth canal. So this mother leaks urine 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And we have plenty of those. So a lot of that, as a maternal, she survives, but a very high morbidity. These are not unusual cases for us. This is normal stuff we see every day.
So what are the ways that you all see forward how to upgrade either the facilities or some of the clinics to help care and solve this incredible problem that you're seeing?
One of our goals is we want to cut back on maternal and neonatal mortality. How do you do that? You improve facilities. You make healthcare more accessible. People are way out and they can't, the roads are awful. There's no transport. There's no bus system. There's nothing. So if you can't walk, you're not going to make it. So you got to take the healthcare to the patients, to their villages. We have 19 clinics that we're supporting spread throughout Nuba. We want to start upgrading those clinics to what's called a BMONC, is what they call them. So basic emergency obstetric and neonatal care, BMONC. Basic care is you can provide IV antibiotics. You can give drugs to augment or to augment labor. Means if the mother's not progressing well in labor, you can give her some medicine that will help push the baby out. You can take care of a mother who's had a miscarriage, who's bleeding. You can do an assisted delivery, which means use a vacuum or some other device to help get the baby out. So it's kind of all the maternal care or care of miscarriages, just shy of doing a C-section. So whatever you need to do, short of a C-section, you can do it at the BMONCs. You need a midwife who's well-trained, and probably a clinical officer to help with some of the medical care. So we're trying to upgrade some of our clinics to have this capability. We're training 29 midwives. So like as of now, there are maybe 10 trained midwives at all Nuba Mountains. So we're going from 10 trained midwives for all of Nuba. We're going to put 29 into the system. We want to get all these midwives out to the periphery. Get them out, let them do proper antenatal care. They can identify the mothers, a mother who's, 5 feet tall, that's got a big belly, get her to the hospital. She might need a C-section. The woman that's got a breech delivery, get her to the hospital. Twins, these are all high risk. So she'll identify the high risk mothers, transfer them to the hospital where now we can evaluate them and maybe watch them in labor or do a C-section, whatever we need to do, to kind of head things off before they get to a problem. But also do a competent, safe delivery. That's the goal. So train people, we need the facilities, we need to upgrade some of the facilities, a little more building, maybe get some proper drugs and proper equipment for those clinics to do a proper maternity care.
So what role do the clinics play in Nuba, and what are the types of cases that they typically see in these expansion clinics that you talked about?
Right, so the clinics, they see, they see what we see, so it's all the same stuff. They're gonna be the first people. They're the front lines of the healthcare. So they're gonna see all the kids with diarrheas, pneumonias, malaria. They're gonna see the pregnant women with all kinds of problems and complications. So the clinical officers, they're people we trained, who we send out for training. They should be able to handle 70% what they cover, 80%. What they see in the clinic, they should be able to handle probably 80% what they see. They can take care of the musculoskeletal problems. They can take care of all the malarias, the kids with pneumonia. They should be able to handle that. What they can't handle, they've got a referral hospital. They send them to us. They send us with a referral. Hey, this person's got this condition. I think this person has TB. They don't have TB drugs there. This person has a surgical condition. This mother is at risk for a problem when she goes into labor. Refer those people up. So the whole goal of this idea is like spokes in a hub. So the spokes are the clinics and we are the hub. So the spokes are spread out. Those clinical officers, midwives, take care of 90% of what they see at the clinic. They refer the rest to us. We take care of those problems. Now you've got a rudimentary health system. Train people on the periphery where they're doing the bulk of the work, seeing the bulk of the patients. They send the more difficult cases into us. We handle those cases.
I know you have a family now in Nuba. Your wife, Nasima, you recently adopted a son, Vincent, and you have your son, Francis. Can you talk about them just a little bit? And how has having a family now in Nuba changed your life and your work there?
Obviously, getting married and having kids has improved my life significantly. My wife and I married in May of 2016. We unfortunately couldn't have our own kids, and we prayed and asked the Lord for good guidance. And I told my wife, I said, Nazima, let's adopt a child, let's try it. She had no idea what adoption was. In Nuba Mountains, people don't adopt because there are no kids up for adoption. It was almost unheard of. So you don't find adoptive parents there. You don't find kids up for adoption. She says, okay, what's adoption? What do we do? Anyway, make a long story short, she ended up going to Juba, which is a country away. She adopted our first son, Francis. So Francis came to us. It's been about 5.5 years. And he's been a great joy. I mean, just a great kid. He's 8 years old now, a lot of fun. He's the best football player in Nuba Mountains. He's the only one, but he's the best. So he's learning how to throw the football well, kicks the soccer ball around. Great little kid. He's being homeschooled by some missionary neighbors of ours, just thriving. He's got some good friends there, doing great. So I'm from a big family. I've got 6 siblings. Nazima's got a huge family, and she's an African woman, right? You can't just have one kid. So we want to have more kids. So we tried and tried. Nazima went to Khartoum. This is before the civil war started in the north. January 2023, she was in Khartoum. Wanted to adopt a kid. There's a big orphanage there called Mygoma. It's an orphanage with about 380 children. And she goes in, and the woman says, "By the way, what religion are you?" And she said, "I'm Christian." And she said, "Oh, too bad, because Christians can't adopt in Sudan. Only Muslims can adopt in Sudan. That's the law of the land." And she said, "Because Muslims make better mothers." End of story. So my wife leaves Khartoum, heartbroken. That door is closed. Like, nope, not possible. Unless you're a Muslim, you cannot adopt. The lady said, "Why don't you go home? You convert to Islam and come back in a year." And my wife's like, "I don't think so. See you later." We still are really trying hard to adopt a child. She goes to Juba, spends 2 months in Juba, can't find any place to adopt a child. They're orphans. I can't understand it. There are orphanages there. But the process was so difficult. She just couldn't manage to do it. So comes back and she's like, "I'm done. I can't keep going around and getting disappointed." So now in May of 2024, just last year, May, on a Saturday night, May 4th, we're sitting around and I've got my little walkie-talkie on that I can communicate with the hospital. So anytime an emergency comes and it's nighttime or on the weekend, they call me. So they called me from maternity on Saturday night. They said, "Doctor, we have a child that was just found abandoned." We're like, "Whoa, what's that?" So my wife overhears it. She doesn't say anything to me. She just takes off for the hospital. The hospital's like 2 minutes away. She bolts, runs down to the hospital. I follow her down there. We find this newborn baby just lying there. He said, "No, this kid was found out in a riverbed." And some women came and found him and took him to the hospital. So, we waited a bit, did some background check. And we said, "No, we want to take this baby. We've been looking for this. And God has just dropped this kid in our laps." We were so happy. So we took him in. So we named him Vincent Moses. Moses, because he was kind of found in a riverbed, a bit similar to the story of Moses in the Bible. So Vinny now is 1.5 years, and he's the love of our lives. And this kid provides us with all the entertainment. He's a great little kid.
So how has your faith impacted your time in Sudan, and in what ways does it help sustain you in your work?
Right. So, I think if I were not a person of faith, I would not have stayed there. I think without that background of like, hey, God is with us, God is behind us. It's not me doing all this stuff. God can use us if we submit to the will of God. Let's just keep going forward. We have a priest with us. We go to Mass every day. Without that daily reading of Scripture and hearing the Word of God, there's no way I would have stuck it out. Too many problems, too many disappointments, too many frustrations. It's a hard, hard place. It's fine like for a week or 2 weeks, it's fine, but to put up with things year after year, I don't think I could do it unless I had that faith that I'm where I'm supposed to be. God is with us. With the grace of God, we can go forward. Let me just keep going. I still feel this is my place to be. Eventually, I think I'll be able to move on. Not yet. But come a time I feel, okay, it's time to move on. I want to hand the keys over to the Nuba staff. Let me either take a step back or do something different. That time's not there yet.
Can you just tell us briefly about the hospital's relationship with Sudan Relief Fund, and what role does SRF help play in supporting the work?
So Sudan Relief Fund has been backing the hospital since before the hospital opened. So this goes back to the late 1990s. Sudan Relief Fund has continued supporting us for that many years. So for a brief time, we had some big institutional donors, many through the church, the Caritas network. And then in 2017, they dropped us like a lead balloon. They stopped supporting us. So overnight, we had to appeal to Sudan Relief Fund, a couple other partners to help us out. So Sudan Relief Fund, along with their other partners, have stepped forward, have taken a very big role in making sure that we keep going. Without these donors, we stop. We stop functioning without supporters. We can't do this on our own. We'll do a 4 or 5 hour operation and we'll charge $1, right? So there's no way that the patients can pay for what services they're getting. We charge that. I think it's a good thing for their dignity to say, yeah, we're paying for something. You know, we're not getting everything for free. It's not a handout. So I think it's good for the patients to get in that habit of paying something, but it's a nominal fee. And it's, you know, obviously if they say, I don't have that $1, we don't force that. We don't turn them away. We obviously do it and eat that cost, but it's, we're dependent on help from the outside. Keep going.
What message do you have to people in the US or around the world who think, well, I don't have any skills to offer to help? Like, how can ordinary people make a difference with your mission and what's happening in Nuba?
Everybody can contribute, and I don't want to sound crass, but the honest truth is, to be blunt, giving a financial contribution is a tremendous way to help. Like, without that, we can't do anything. So I consider all the people that donate to our partners are equal partners in our work, as equal as I am, as equal as my wife, who's a nurse there, as equal as the other doctors and nurses that work with us. It's an equal partnership. We can't do anything without them. So by donating anything, you are providing a huge service to the people there. And you're in partnership with us, like a senior partnership. Prayer is very powerful, and I don't want to underscore that. The power of prayer is phenomenal, and I really want to encourage people, please pray for us. It's very powerful. And we are a Christian mission institute. We're a Catholic hospital. We rely on the support of people financially, but also their prayerful support to keep going. I know what that means. I know where I'm only there, that we're still alive because of the power of prayer. We have God's protection. That's what keeps us going.
Do you have hope for Sudan's future and the future of Nuba specifically?
Well, you know, hope is a Christian virtue, right? So I always have hope. You know, is there going to be peace in Sudan? I don't know. It's the outlook doesn't look that great, but the Nuba people are tough. They're resilient, and despite all the chaos going on around us, we are expanding. We're improving our services. We're expanding the health we're offering. So that's where my hope is. And my feeling is, I don't care what's going on around us. We're going to keep doing what we're doing. We're going to try to expand. We're going to try to improve. So that's where my hope is. That the people have the same attitude. They're like, well, you know, we're not going to give up. Let's keep going. Let's keep moving forward. We have no control over the political situation. You've got these different generals that are fighting over power. I can't, you know, talk to these guys and say stop fighting. But what I can do is do what I can do to the best of my ability. Let me keep doing what I'm doing. Let's keep expanding. Let's keep working hard for these people who are suffering.
My last question for you, Tom, is how do you want to be remembered?
Well, I think I'd like to be remembered as being somebody who was a servant of God, who said, okay, that guy was actually doing his duty as a Christian, full stop. I don't need much else. He took the call of God, took it seriously, and did his duty as a servant. It's like, you know, I think, what did Jesus say about, you know, if you're the servant, you don't come home and have your boss say, hey, good job, well done, sit down and have some dinner. He says, yeah, you did your job, you know, move on. So let that be me. Let me be, it's okay. You did your job, you know, now carry on. I don't expect any, you know, praise. I don't expect, you know, to be lauded or anything. I just want to say he did his job as a Christian, his duty, quietly, effectively, but did it without giving up.
I think that's a beautiful way to conclude. Thanks, Tom. Appreciate your time.
Right.